Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and I have something different for you this week. It is not R.L. Stine. This book is one of the reasons why I called this channel Nightfall Audiobooks and not the R.L. Stine Reading Hour or Fear Street Audiobooks or something like that. This is Whisper of Death by Christopher Pike. This is a horror novel. It's a terror novel. I have put myself in the shoes of these characters many times, and I've tried to figure my way out of it, and I can't figure it out. I have put some thought into their voices, and I think I will be pretty happy with how I have this cast. I thought this was called Road to Nowhere for the longest time, because the road literally ends, and you can't escape the spell of the witch in this book. But no, it's called Whisper of Death, and I don't think that the title does this story any justice. If you judge the book by its cover, it has two kids in front of a car and this ghoul kind of hitchhiking in the foreground and some mountains and a desert. I wouldn't buy this book looking at the cover. It's not intriguing enough. But the synopsis is pretty cool. These two kids get pregnant. They go into town for an abortion. They come back. The entire town is empty. Only a few people are there and everyone else is gone. How do you get your way out of that? So they have to unravel the mystery of what's going on and go from there. This book will probably be 8 episodes long due to Pike's ability to use the pen better than Stine's. Each page is just packed with text. And even though it's 180 pages long, this book is packed with text and description. Lots of good dialogue and stuff. Next to Christopher Pike's Monster and the Last Vampire series, Whisper of Death is right there. My favorite standalone Pike novel, easily. I read this novel every couple of years because it's so good it should be a movie. I would love to see the story done as a movie. Why isn't there a Christopher Pike or an R.L. Stine extended universe kind of thing? That would be cool. Especially a Fear Street series, that would be really cool. So let's begin. What should I read next? I don't know. Send me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I am also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from Christopher Pike. Thank you very much for listening, and let's begin. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of Whisper of Death by Christopher Pike. Chapter 1. I sat alone in a dead world. The wind blows hot and dry, and the dust gathers like particles of memory waiting to be swept away. I pray for forgetfulness, yet my memory remains strong, as does the outstretched arm of the oppressive air. It seems as if the wind has been there since the beginning of the nightmare. Sometimes loud and harsh, 1,000 sharp needles scratching at my reddened skin. Sometimes a whisper, a curious sigh in the black of night, of words more frightening than pain. I know now the wind has been speaking to me, only I couldn't understand it because I was too scared. I am scared now as I write these words. Still, there is nothing else to do. I don't know where to start, but there must be a place of love, of hope. He gave me those things and others as well. Yes, I will start with him. His name was Pepper. That wasn't his real name, of course. His parents had christened him Paul Pointzel. He didn't have dark freckles or anything. I don't know where he got his nickname, but he was Pepper when I met him, and that's how I think of him. Pepper and Rox. My name is Roxanne Wells. I'm 18, or rather, I was 18. At the moment, I'm not going to get any older. The second hand on my watch will move forward, but won't go anywhere from me. This moment is all there is. We met in high school. He was a babe. I don't know why he asked me out. I wasn't very nice to him. He was new to the area, but not that new. I'd seen him around town for a year or so before he made a move on me. I'd heard good things and bad things about him. One friend said he was just out for sex. Another said he was a romantic at heart. What the hell, I thought. I needed sex and romance in my life. Sometimes I believe I would have taken one without the other. Even before Pepper cornered me, I decided that, if given the chance, I would let him get to know me. It was lunchtime at school, a hot early April afternoon. I was sitting by myself on a rock at the corner of campus staring out at the desert. It was a favorite spot for me to hang out and just eat junk food. School was in Salem, Arizona, a town built on sand with a lot of sweat. I had grown up surrounded by an ocean of dust, yet the sight of the desert never tired me. I was always glad the city architects had put Salem high at the edge of town and not in the center. Downtown Salem was about as exciting as an empty movie theater. Things may have been happening in town, but hardly anyone was there to acknowledge the fact. Even before the transformation, Salem felt barren. Pepper suddenly appeared, standing above me with his thumbs hooked into the back pockets of his Levi 505s. He was trying to look cool, and not doing a bad job of it. He was too handsome. By that, I mean I wasn't given any chance to dislike him. Everything that happened between us had to be. It was inevitable. His hair was brown and messy. He needed a shave. His eyes were as dark as blue prairie grass before a storm. He had a body, every guy does, but his fit him better than most. But I didn't smile at him, not right away. I was cool too. "Hey, Roxanne," he said, then paused. "That is your name?" It had better be. I had to shield my eyes to look at him. He had the sun behind him, which I think was a strategic move on his part. "What do you want?" "Got a cigarette?" "I don't smoke," I said. "I've seen you smoke." "When?" "At the park, at night." "Those weren't cigarettes," I said. "To each his own. I'm a beer man myself." I shrugged, going back to my honey bun. I get loaded once in a blue moon. I took a bite of my bun, and every Tuesday. "Mind if I sit down?" he asked, not waiting for my permission to share the rock. At least now I didn't have to blind myself to look at him. "What's so special about Tuesdays?" he asked. "Tuesday means Monday's over." He glanced back at campus, the lackadaisical crowd. "You're a senior, aren't you? You'll be out of here pretty soon. What are you going to do after graduation?" I laughed. "Look at you. We haven't even been introduced, and you want to know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life." He just stared at me a moment. Then he offered me his hand. "My name's Pepper," he said. "That's a weird name." I shook his hand. "Is it a nickname?" "I guess. I hear everyone calls you Rox." "Only my friends." "What should I call you?" he asked. "You don't have to call me anything. You're a real sweetheart, you know that?" I smiled sweetly. "Thank you. Is that a personal observation, or is that something else you've heard?" "Do you want me to leave?" "Whatever gave you that idea?" I asked. He stood. "Have a nice lunch, Roxanne." I quickly put a hand on his knee. "You may call me Rox, Pepper." He hesitated, then sat back down and stared at the ground. Guys often do that. I don't know why. There's nothing there. "I'm not trying to hit on you or anything," he said. "What are you trying to do?" He glanced over. "I was just looking for a cigarette. There's a liquor store over on Stills. It sells them. It sells beer as well." That got him mad. "Do you want me to stay or not?" I laughed. "I don't know. Now that I know you're not going to hit on me, probably not." The tension was broken. He laughed too. "What are you doing next Tuesday?" Like I said, I was game. Drinking beer with you? Maybe. There was no maybe about it. We went out the following Tuesday. It was the only day I didn't have to work besides Sunday, which was never any good because it came before Blue Monday. I was a seamstress in a clothes store. It was boring. I never really got to make dresses, just sewed the seams. It paid zip, like every other teen job in Salem. Pepper had a job too. I'd seen him at it before we met. He delivered flowers. What a joke. He rode to work on a motorcycle at 80 miles an hour in black leather, then put on a pansy coat and climbed in a van and tooled around Salem, making young and old women alike ecstatic. He said the tips weren't bad, and the women were always happy to kiss him. We went to a movie, and I rode on the back of his motorcycle. It was a horror film about the second expedition to Mars called The Season of Passage. At the end I wanted to cry because it was so sad, but Pepper was still eating his popcorn. He was stuffing it into his face, and I found it impossible to weep with someone eating beside me. We went for a malt and fries afterward, a typical date in Salem. The place wasn't Option City. We drank a couple of beers on a dark bus stop bench. But then, on the way home, still on the back of his bike, I leaned my head back and gazed at the stars, bright in the clear black sky. I said something to Pepper about wishing we had a flying saucer so we could leave the planet, and he instantly made a sharp U-turn. "Where are we going?" I called into the breeze. He drove fast but smooth, with complete control. On our next date, though, I had already decided that we go in my car. I liked my hair to look like something naturally attached to my body when I got to where I was going, and I knew there would be a second date. I liked him too much for there not to be. "To get a telescope," he answered. "Who has a telescope?" Our school? We ended up breaking into the science lab. It was easy. We just went up a tree and through a window. I had never taken astronomy. I was more of the basic education kind of girl. Give me my diploma and I'd be gone. The telescope sat on a collapsible tripod. Pepper hoisted it onto his shoulder and walked toward the door. He assured me we'd bring it back when we were done with it, and nobody would even know it had been on a vacation. Where are we going with it? I asked. I didn't mind a little adventure. To the reservoir. That sounded fine to me except for the obvious. But we're on a motorcycle, I said. It's not that big a telescope, Rocks. What else are we going to do at the reservoir? I asked, suspicious. He cocked an eyebrow. Nothing you won't enjoy. I'm not that kind of girl. They all say that. I socked him. Some of us mean it. But I don't know if I was one of them. We didn't have sex that first night anyway. We had a hard enough time getting the telescope out to the reservoir. Pepper complicated matters by roaring through the center of town so that everyone could see what we were doing. I almost dropped the damn thing half a dozen times. The reservoir was cool, especially at night when the water was like glass and the air was filled with space. You could stand out there alone at night with the Milky Way streaming over your head and imagine you were standing on a moon circling Saturn. Pepper had never taken astronomy either, so we had a hard time finding anything specific. Yet, to me, everywhere we looked there was something. Stars, thousands of stars. It made me wish I was an astronaut, a goddess, anything but a poor girl in a poor town with no future. I sighed as I removed my eye from the telescope eyepiece. Do you think there's anyone out there? I asked Pepper, my eyes staring straight up. No one human. He came up behind me and put his hands on my shoulders. I leaned back and rested my head in the hollow of his shoulder. The night was magic, the silence perfect. I was happy right then, really happy, but sad too, because I knew the happiness wouldn't last. It never does. Would that be so bad? I asked, my gaze millions of light years away, his breath warm and close on my cheek. What do you mean? He asked. Would it be so bad if they weren't human, as long as they were kind? He pulled me around gently until I was facing him. You're beautiful, Rocks. You deserve a sky full of kind stars. I laughed lightly. Don't talk. You sound stupid when you talk. What should I do then? Kiss me. He kissed me. I made him do it. It was good. Too good. He took me back to the reservoir that Friday night after work. We didn't bring the telescope, but we had the place to ourselves again. We skinny dipped in the cool water. We kissed some more, and I let him touch my breasts, but we didn't make love. Or maybe we did make love, because I was already in love with him. I don't know why. The best love never has a reason. I just had to look at him, and there was no reason to look anywhere else. Paul lived with his aunt and uncle. I lived with my dad. Dad was never at home. He was a long-distance truck driver. He drove from New York to L.A. and back again every week. We had a peculiar relationship. I was more his pal than his daughter. When I was home, I cleaned his clothes and fed him, but the way we talked to each other would have made a child psychologist cringe. We argued, we swore at each other, and in the end, he usually agreed with me. But we loved each other too. His name was Sam. I never knew my mother. From the things Sam had to say, it didn't sound like he knew her very well either. She left on a westbound Greyhound bus when I was 48 hours old. Seemed she wanted to be an actress in Hollywood or something. Pepper's aunt and uncle lived on the other edge of town from the school, on a miserable farm better known for its horses than its produce. But like any farm, good or bad, it had a barn. And it was in that barn that I lost my virginity after a thorough examination by Dr. Pepper. I don't really remember how the date started. We ate, I know that, but I can't remember where. Then we went for a long walk, and in Salem, it's not possible to walk too far without coming back home. We ended up at Pepper's place. His aunt and uncle were asleep. Pepper wanted to show me his horse, Shadowfax, named after Gandalf the Wizard's horse in The Lord of the Rings. It was a nice It was a nice horse. It was a nice barn full of nice soft hay. But there was something wicked inside that hay that almost got me killed. When we began to kiss, Pepper suddenly tickled me, and I fell back and landed on the hay. I missed impaling myself on a pitchfork by inches. Pepper was white when I pulled it out of the straw beside me. Did you set this up? I asked, the pitchfork in my hand, pointed at him. I can see the headlines now. Poor innocent co-ed pierced on the eve of greatness. Pepper grabbed the pitchfork from my hand and tossed it aside. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. I could tell he was shaken. He came and knelt beside me and spoke seriously. You are great, he said. I grinned. Those 3 little words meant more to me than those other famous 3 little words, I think. He had yet to say those words, and I was determined not to say them until he said them to me. Why? I asked. I'm not pretty. I'm not smart. I'm nothing. Yet I knew I wasn't ugly or stupid. My hair was long and red, my eyes green and bright. A nice combination. I was too thin, I had no tits, but even girlfriends complimented me on my legs. Those same girls, however, said I didn't smile enough. Melancholy rocks. I didn't like to smile because of my teeth. They were crooked and didn't shine like those of the actresses on TV. I also seldom smiled because I felt haunted and cursed, like it was only a matter of time, but for what I didn't know. But in the barn, with my Pepper sitting beside me, the curse seemed oh so far away, when actually it had never been closer. Maybe I was stupid. "You're something," Pepper said, taking my hand. "What?" I asked. He moved closer. "What do you want to be?" "Happy." He snorted and scanned the hay, perhaps to determine how flammable it was. "Do you have a cigarette?" he asked. "That's what you said when we met. You're not supposed to say that right now." "No. A cigarette's supposed to be for after." He moved close enough to kiss. "After what, Rocks?" I was looking at the stars in his eyes, the ones I had put there, and I was looking far away. Like I said, he was too cute. My determination wavered. I had no choice but to say what I did. "I love you," I whispered. The word seemed to worry him, like when I had missed the pitchfork, which had only made me smile. I wished so much that he would smile right then. "Why?" he asked. "Because it makes me happy." I hesitated. "Do you love me?" Now I had put him on the spot. He was really missing his cigarette, but he didn't look away. He kissed me instead, lightly, and then sneezed in his lap. I had to laugh. "Never mind," I said. He shook his head. "It's not you, it's the hay." I lifted my knee and poked him with my foot. "I like this hay. It's like one giant bed." That was a hint he understood. The way he looked at me changed. It wasn't a lustful look. It was more like his worry deepened and transformed inside him, becoming something closer to fear. But being scared can be fun, and he looked interested too. He took me in his arms. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I brushed his hair back. "What comes easiest?" "Rocks," he began. I closed his lips with my finger. "Shh, you don't have to say it." "I love you too." "I told you," I began. He closed off my lips with his finger. "I will love you," he corrected himself. "Is that good enough?" I nodded, feeling the hay at the back of my neck sliding down my shirt. "Yeah, just don't wait too long." "I won't," he promised. And then, just before it all began, and the train raced down the hill to the bottom, I asked him one question I didn't want to. His answer stood at a 50% chance of ruining everything, but I had to ask it. I stared at the pitchfork as I spoke, lying so innocently beside us. "Is this your first time?" I asked. "Is it yours?" "Yes." He kissed the side of my face. "It's my first time too, Rocks." I cannot talk too much about the sex. It was better than ice cream. It was like a summer night before summer really began, before school let out. For me, anticipation has always been stronger than the reality, and this was such rich anticipation, so constant, that it couldn't help but be fulfilled. What I mean is, I was happy in his arms, like I was that night we were together in the arms of the stars. I felt so much a part of him I honestly believed, for a long time afterward, that I could be a part of everything. Did I think of protection against pregnancy? We only made love that one time. I hardly had a chance to think anything. I suppose the thought of contraception crossed my mind after we were done, but that's the same as thinking about your parachute after you've jumped. You can think all you want. The ground doesn't give a damn. I suspected I was pregnant 2 weeks later. I wasn't late on my period, not yet, but something inside me had changed. A doctor would have said it was hormonal. Maybe, but it was more than that. I had changed, not just my body. But it wasn't like something had been added inside me the way new mothers usually talk. It's more like a part of me had died. Then another 2 weeks went by, and my period never came. I didn't tell Pepper. I didn't want to worry him. I went to the drugstore in Lendell, a nearby town, and bought an early pregnancy test. Those suckers cost more than I thought, a big $15. I read the instructions carefully. The bottom line was that if it tested negative, then you could still be pregnant. They weren't making any guarantees. But if it tested positive, then you were definitely looking at a major change in lifestyle. I took the test. I failed it. I passed it. I held that pink-colored test tube in my hand and started shaking, but no matter how hard I shook, the test tube didn't turn blue or green. I was pregnant. God. I didn't cry. How could I? It was a miracle. It was a gift from God. I threw up instead. Then I got out the yellow pages and called a doctor in Lendell. That's what the instructions inside the test box had said to do, just in case her doctor had a different color test tube, I guess. I didn't have my own physician. I seldom got sick, and when I did, I just waited it out. I called Dr. Adams. He was the first one listed. I spoke to his nurse. She wanted me to have a blood test and a urine test even before I saw the doctor. I asked how much. $70, she replied. My baby was already getting expensive, I thought. I said, all right. I passed these tests. I passed them. The doctor was finally waiting to see me about a week after I called. He was younger than I thought he'd be, and better looking, which made me even more nervous. He didn't make me take off my clothes and examine me. We just sat down in his office. He started off by asking how I felt. I'm all right, I said. I didn't mean physically. Are you upset? Are you happy? The first choice, I said. Do you have a boyfriend? I think so. Does he know? No. Are you going to tell him? Yes. Do you want to keep the baby? He asked. It was such a normal question for a doctor to ask, and I know it sounds impossible, but I had never asked myself that question. I don't know, I said, gesturing helplessly. I've never been pregnant before. He was sympathetic. How old are you, Roxanne? 18? You're legal. What does that mean? You can make your own choice. He paused. Have you told your parents? I only have a father. I haven't told him. He studied me. His brown eyes were kind. You look like a girl with a head on her shoulders. You know the choices you have? I nodded. There aren't that many of them. There's a family planning clinic in Foster. It's a 2-hour drive. If you want to go there, you just have to give me a call, and I'll set up the appointment for you. I don't want to go there, I said, so sharply I startled us both. He didn't want to say the word, and I didn't want to hear it, but we were both talking about abortion. Just the sound of it inside my head made me feel sick. I wish they had given the procedure initials instead of a name, like, oh, just going to have an ABT, be back before lunch. Then I could pretend it wasn't much different from ordering a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. Dr. Adams stood and squeezed my shoulder. You think about what you want to do. Talk to your father and your boyfriend if you wish. But don't let anyone make the decision for you, okay? Okay. Thank you, doctor. I paid the nurse at the front and drove home. My car was overheating. I had to stop twice and cool the radiator down with water. It was 4 in the afternoon on a blue Monday. I knew Pepper was at work, driving around town with his bright floral arrangements. There was no reason I couldn't wait until he was off to tell him the news. After all, I had already waited so long. But I needed a friend. I didn't really have anyone except Pepper. My best friend, Susan Duggan, had moved to Florida the previous year. I realized right then how superficial the rest of my friendships were. My boyfriend was the only one I could imagine myself talking to about my problem. I caught him as he was loading the last of his deliveries in the van. It was funny, I had never seen him so happy to see me. He gave me a big hug and a kiss, and plucked a rose from an arrangement and fixed it in my hair. All that before I could say a word. But then I didn't have to say much. He was staring at my face now. If he saw half of what I felt, he must have been in shock. I felt sorry for him right then. Heck, I felt sorry for me. We had our whole lives in front of us. The last few days he had been talking about driving to L.A. We get a place in Venice by the beach, he said, and walk by the water every evening. I just smiled. It sounded so wonderful, but he didn't even know if he loved me. What is it, Rox? He asked. I have some good news and I have some bad news. What do you want to hear first? He hesitated. The good news? It's yours. What's mine? The bad news. What? The baby. He sagged a little. What are you talking about? He asked. I'm pregnant. I hastily added, I'm sorry. He tried to swallow. It stuck somewhere in his throat. Then he just stood there, looking at a distant spot located off to the left side of my eyes. I had never seen anyone's tan fade so fast. Are you sure? He asked softly, finally. I just came from the doctor's. I buried my face in his chest, hugging him tightly. I fought the tears back, and it was probably the only fight I had won all day. Only a few weeks had passed since I had mouthed off to him at school. How everything had changed. Falling in love had humbled me to the point of being pathetic. Do you hate me? I asked meekly. He put his arms weakly around me. No, of course not. Why would I hate you? Because I screwed up? No, Rox. He pulled me gently off him and looked at my face. You didn't do anything wrong. We'll get through this together, all right? All right. I took out my handkerchief and blew my nose. What are we going to call her? He chuckled. It sounded forced. How do you know it's a her? I just know, I said, and I did. That should have told me something weird was in the air. How about we call her Pebbles, after the baby girl in the Flintstones, Pebbles and Rocks? Pepper wasn't smiling. Are you serious? We can call her anything you want. That's not what I mean, Rox, he said slowly. My voice faltered. You don't want to keep the baby? I asked. Do you? I'd like to. Why? The question hit me like a slap. It took me a moment to find my tongue. Because it would be our baby. He had to think about that a bit, and the passing seconds were hard on me. It was an absurd place to be having such a discussion, the dirty back lot of a florist's. I reached up and touched the flower Pepper had placed in my hair, but I was clumsy and it fell to the ground. I knelt to pick it up. Pepper stopped me. It's no good, he said. I was on edge. What's no good? He gestured. The flower. Leave it. I'll get you another one. But he didn't reach back into the van. I had given him too much to think about, and he couldn't worry about me right then. He continued to stare off into the distance. I had to break the silence. It's not like it's fatal, I joked. Do you really want to keep the baby? I paused. I thought you just asked me that. Rocks. Do you want to keep it? If you don't, just tell me. I don't, he said. I couldn't believe he'd said that. Oh, I knew, of course, he might want me to have an abortion, but for him not to consider having the child made me sad. He didn't even want to sleep on it. But I was no better. I was a child's mother, and all I cared about was remaining his girlfriend. I would throw away the price of love to be in love. My response came out of my mouth. It was fate that spoke. All right, I said. He held me again. He acted all concerned, but there was something fake about it, and we both knew it. I'll help you in any way I can, he said. I'll go with you. I'll pay for it. Then, suddenly, I was far away. More words came out of my mouth, but I know I did not speak these ones. There was no love in them. There was nothing of what I really felt for Pepper in them. Yet I said them anyway, because they were supposed to be true. I'll get rid of it, I said. Life will go on. But it was all a lie.